Welcome back. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Tuesday, September 16th. It is 7:01 on the East Coast. Coming up this hour at 7:10, our Word on Wall Street panel is here with Gina Bolvin and Gregory Farinello looking at major highs in stocks. At 7:20, Senator Bill Hagerty will join us on Memphis, Tennessee. And at 7:30, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer is here on the China Talks. But first, there's this. Americans are finding themselves fired and out of work for their social media posts celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. At least a dozen faculty and staff from schools facing swift termination, including 2 at a Tennessee university. One faculty member allegedly wrote, "You reap what you sow," while another wrote, "This is not a tragedy, it's a victory." Sick.
I just got fired without warning. I found out because I couldn't log on to Slack or Outlook. So that was really fun.
There is a fundamental difference between the cancel culture that the left engages in and the quote-unquote canceling that the right is doing in the wake of Charlie's assassination and the left's celebration of it.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but your boss is not your friend, ever, and you're not safe at your job. So you should cultivate backup options.
The difference is that the left will cancel you for saying objectively true, good, and normal things. To the extent that the right cancels you, it'll be for saying objectively abhorrent, perverse, and sick things.
There is a certain level of poetic justice that this has happened to someone who has, dare I say, cheered on as children have been torn apart by these exact same bullets. Gun violence against conservatives may be the only thing that will finally get them to flip the switch. If there is any good that can come out of today, that has to be it. Hopefully some conservatives will realize that we have a gun problem in America.
And you're not safe at your job, so you should cultivate backup options at all times, because capitalism sucks and you're not safe, unfortunately.
And this distinction matters. As I've said for years, the problem with the left's attack on speech is not just that they're attacking speech, but that they're attacking true and right speech. They want you to be fired for saying, for example, that men can't have babies and women don't have penises. The problem isn't simply that they're trying to get you fired for saying something. It's that they're trying to get you fired for saying the most basic and true things that it's possible for a person to say. The left's war on speech is not a war just on speech. It's a war on truth. They want to punish truth.
And I'm going to be fine, but a lot of people in my position wouldn't be fine. So I just want this to be a warning to whoever's out there and is getting cozy at their job. Don't.
And that will always be worse. Obviously, significantly worse. There is a difference in kind between the statement, men aren't women, and the statement, Charlie Kirk deserved to die because he was a fascist, Nazi, racist bigot. What's the difference? Well, the first statement is the most obviously true thing that anyone can ever say. The second statement is a demented, deranged, perverse, sick, evil, wicked, horrendous, outrageous lie that not only smears the good name of an innocent man, but also implicitly encourages violence against the millions of people who agree with his politics. That's the difference.
And what assassins should always remember is just because you take somebody out doesn't mean the message is going to stop. Yeah. And it's important to keep that in mind, because when you look at our loss of Martin Luther King, or name anyone who's been assassinated in this country, we continue to fight on. And that's what America offers. It says, listen, you have the right to say and feel however you want. That is a birthright. You're born with that right. So taking somebody out is not the way to do it. You want to fight about something, then go to the ballot box. Go elect different people. Killing people doesn't do anything except make it a horrible world for their children. We'll be right back.
And the idea that we can't advocate social consequences against the latter statement without also accepting or approving of such consequences for the former statement is asinine.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics.
Are you ashamed at all? Look at her face. Are you ashamed? No, look. Everyone look at her face. Why did you bring your children here?
There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder.
Stephen King here, reminding you it's Sunday, but there's still time for you to walk to your nearest movie theater and see The Long Walk. Okay? Do it.
There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend.
What I do know for sure is that, you know, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting.
There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination.
I saw the video of it. His last words were gun violence. I'll just say I think it's very fitting. I wish for him the same exact thing he said, oh well, about those kids being shot in schools, as long as we have the Second Amendment.
And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree.
Ilhan Omar, after his assassination, called Charlie Kirk a reprehensible human being. Should she be stripped of her committee assignments?
I would say, I think she's a disgraceful person. I think she's a disgraceful person.
Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so. And
loser. It's amazing the way people vote. I know it's people from her area, maybe of the world. I don't know. They got here and they vote her in. It's hard to believe, but I think she's a disgusting person.
The idea that society must treat all speech exactly the same, as if it's impossible to distinguish between banal everyday truth and the deranged hallucinatory rantings of bloodthirsty sociopathic hobgoblins, is totally ludicrous.
Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
So it's been known for quite a while that Ilhan Omar apparently married her own brother to help him gain entry illegally into the country. That's a violation of immigration law.
It's not capitalism that sucks. I believe the word that should be used here is consequences. And now you face them based on your own actions. That's how it works here in this country. But that is, of course, if you're still in this country, if you're still a legal resident, citizen of this country. And I'm going to share more with you guys, including the latest from Nancy Mace and her push for censure and further consequences for the likes of Ilhan Omar. But she's just the tip of this iceberg, and there's so much more beneath the surface that we have only just begun to expose. And speaking of exposure, today I want to pull back the curtain a little bit on how I choose to run my channel and how I structure my videos and compilations, curate the stories that matter, and foster these real engagements and conversations with you guys, which I think you guys really enjoy. Now, it's all about building a space that's honest, unfiltered, and committed to truth over sensationalism. But let's be real. One of the unfortunate and necessary evils in this line of work is providing exposure and essentially a platform to those on the left who are deservingly making a name for themselves for all the wrong reasons. Now, I'm not here for sound bites or hot takes just to paint a certain picture or shift a narrative. No. It's important to share the whole story, or at least as much of it as possible, so we can truly examine, discuss, and expose what's really going on. And as a reminder, you're not forced to be here. You're not forced to click on my thumbnails. You're not forced to stay and watch. And perhaps if you are not mature enough to handle these conversations, there are better channels out there more suited to your tastes. For everyone else, thank you for your continued support, and we shall keep this momentum moving forward, because I can tell you without any question in my mind and heart that I know for a fact that there is paid opposition, trolls, bots, evil, and so much hate out there that would prefer we didn't have this opportunity, prefer we didn't have this space, this community of like-minded, America first, conservative, God-fearing patriots who know right from wrong and want to do all we can to protect ourselves now and our children's futures. Now, quick show of hands. How many of you want to see Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of the cast of hosts from The View out of a job? Are they not deserving of this fate for what they've done and been associated with for who knows how long now? I mean, I can't even remember really, but I do remember they are the absolute worst. But of all the hosts on The View, I honestly think Joy Behar or Sunny Hostin might be the absolute worst, or at least tied for worst. But what do you guys think? Let me know, who is your least favorite over there? And shifting gears now here, let's talk about Matt Walsh and his spot-on explanation of how the left tries to manipulate speech, free speech, accurate and correct, wholeheartedly right speech. These truths we know to be self-evident, to be a weapon that they have so often and continuously tried and wielded to use against us. Matt Walsh has been hammering this point home in his recent shows and posts, calling out how the left weaponizes platforms, labels dissenting views as hate speech, and even ties free expression to historical atrocities like the Holocaust to shut down, or at least attempt to shut down, debate. He's definitely, certainly defiant, has been, and probably forever will be defiant in the face of death threats from the radical left, vowing not to be silenced. And he's exposing how they're coming after figures like Elon Musk for daring to allow open discourse on X. It's a reminder that true speech, free speech, is under siege, but voices like Matt Walsh keep fighting to protect it. And I got to ask, when have you ever seen anything similar happen to Democrats? Because that's not how we operate. The Democrats, what they try to do to conservative voices, wise, smart, intelligent, logical, scientifically backed, faith-based voices, is they try to silence you with false information, slander, libel, lies, and then they move on to death threats or just shooting you. That's what they do. We have a proven historical track record of that. What do? We continuously try and meet them somewhere in the middle. We continuously try to educate as many people as possible. We continuously try to do the right thing. But that's what we do. And we're not going to stop, okay? At least I'm not. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to, resort to their tactics and strategies. No. I am going to continue to do my job, the job that I still have. Fortunately, I am my own boss. And take, for example, this young woman we saw, now unemployed, like so many following the terrible ideologies of their online worshiping cults. She denounces capitalism, tries and attempts to invoke fear and plant seeds seemingly to her followers, her audience, about how doing the wrong things can get you fired and forced to go without a paycheck, facing those hardships and consequences that would result and come with that fate, but somehow assuming that their boss is their friend. It's a hard pill to swallow for some, but we're seeing now clearer than ever that some of these people have seriously lost their freaking minds. They've lost their ever-loving minds. And to think that anyone would want to be friends with someone who openly mocks the tragic death, killing, murder, assassination of another American, a human being, online with their entire grieving family to watch is just absolutely sick. And there's no place for them in this society. From that point, then moving on to promote the socialist and communist ideas against capitalism just goes to show and should clearly tell you everything you need to know about these deranged and seriously fucked up people.
Now, I don't think that such ranting should be made illegal. I don't think that the people celebrating Charlie's death should be banned by the government from saying those things. But I do think it's good that these people lose their jobs. It's good that they are shamed and humiliated and must live with the repercussions for the rest of their lives. It's good if they wake up every day until they die wishing they had not said what they said.
But I digress. And I want you all to tell me, what do you think about all of this? The comment section's wide open. The latest from President Trump, who's been front and center announcing the relocation of U.S. Space Command headquarters to Huntsville, Alabama, pushing back against what he calls obstructions from the previous administration and focusing on national security priorities. Attorney General Pam Bondi is vowing a federal crackdown on hate speech while targeting left-wing radicals in high-profile cases, including the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination, promising maximum penalties and no leniency for progressive DAs, district attorneys, or smugglers at the border. Vice President J.D. Vance is hosting tributes to Charlie Kirk on the Charlie Kirk Show, traveling to comfort, or at least attempt to comfort, his family in Utah, and pledging to dismantle left-leaning organizations like the Open Society Foundations that he says fuel violence and radicalism. And Matt Walsh, as we touched on, is standing firm against a flood of threats while calling out the left's escalating violence in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, with some celebrators even getting fired for their vile posts. They're probably not celebrating that, being unemployed. There are others in the mix, aren't there? More for which you will see here in just a moment. Stick with me here, folks. We're going places. Drop your thoughts down below. What's your take on these developments, this breaking news, these bombshells? All that is being exposed, the pushback against the left's tactics, and how we keep exposing the truth. Let me know. I can't wait to read them all.
Sick. Clemson University says 2 professors have been removed from their teaching duties pending an investigation. And officials in Texas say 100 teachers and staffers were terminated for similar comments. Joining me now is South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being here. This is absolutely outrageous. I know you're urging the Department of Education to cut off federal funding to any schools or faculty that appear to be spewing hate like this and celebrating this assassination. Tell us more.
Well, right. I mean, we should not allow these educators who are celebrating the political assassination of Charlie Kirk and conservatives around the country. They should not be anywhere near our kids or teaching them. The same thing goes for healthcare professionals, doctors, anesthesiologists, nurses. I don't want these people making life or death healthcare decisions for myself, my family, or any of you that are watching you, Maria, this morning. And in fact, late last night, we got tipped off about an alleged employee at a South Carolina college saying that violence is the only answer and saying that I would be the next political assassination. These people need to be publicly shamed. They need to be shamed out of a civil society, out of their jobs when they are around children or making healthcare decisions. Enough is enough. This is the mentality that got Charlie Kirk assassinated. It's why Donald Trump they attempted to kill him twice last year. It's why so many conservatives are getting death threats all day, all night right now. And we're done with it.
Yeah, but I want to know who is supporting this and funding this. I mean, you've got to follow the money. President Trump now wants to see racketeering charges against leftist groups who are agitators. Watch this.
I've asked Pam to look into that in terms of RICO, bringing RICO cases against the criminal RICO, because they should be put in jail. What they're doing to this country is really subversive.
I mean, the president said he's going to look at the Soros network. I know you plan to file a resolution stripping Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of her committee assignments following her disparaging comments about Charlie Kirk. So let me kick it off, this whole look at this with that. Who is funding this radicalization?
Well, I agree with President Donald Trump. The first person we should look at is George Soros. We know that he has sent a lot of money, millions of dollars, funding organizations that want chaos, division, and violence. I mean, when there were the Black Lives Matter riots, if you remember, Maria, there were pallets of bricks that were sent to small towns all across the country to destroy these cities and these towns. So somebody is paying for this. And we know it's coming out of the Democrat the left-wing party in the United States. We know that they are participating in this, but somebody is funding it. And I agree with Trump to start with Soros. And I am filing a privileged motion this morning to censure Ilhan Omar for alleging that Charlie Kirk is a terrorist in her content, and all but blaming him for his assassination, but also strip her of her committee assignments. I believe in the First Amendment. You have the right to say whatever you want, but that has consequences, and she should be admonished, and she should be reprimanded here in Congress. This is the sort of thing that is putting conservatives' lives in danger. I carry my 6-hour P365 now everywhere I go because of the danger and the threats that we're currently facing.
Yeah, I mean,
in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder.
I mean, there's a whole group of Democrats who use the word fascist repeatedly during their campaigning, their political campaigning. And, you know, the suspect had the word fascist etched on his ammunition. So what does that tell you?
Well, you mean, look at Kamala Harris when she was running for president last year. She said live on air multiple times over that Donald Trump was a fascist. And this ideology, they've called us Nazis, they've called us Hitler, they've called us fascists, they've called us terrorists. This is why our lives are in danger. And how do you have unity with a group of people who want to murder you? And, I talked to my pastor on Sunday. I'm struggling with this because these people need to be held accountable. They need to be fired from their jobs. They need to go to jail if they've committed a crime. And, how do you handle that? And so that's the question we're all asking ourselves. And we want to be safe in our communities. But also, if this guy right here, this sounds like he was organized. I know that Kash Patel said that they were talking to many people on Discord. It was definitely premeditated. But this ideology, and he comes from this community because his boyfriend, I guess, is transgender or transitioning. But they come from this community that is advocating for violence. And I've had so many threats. And in fact, at my first Turning Point USA event earlier this year, there was a transgender person who tried to pick up a potted plant, a fern, and throw it at me. But this is a community that just because I say as a rape survivor, as a rape victim, I don't want a biological man in the shower next to me or the bathroom, they want to kill me because of my beliefs as a woman and as a rape survivor. So,
do you believe that there should be a law against men going up to windows to watch women undress?
Yes, of course
okay,
I do.
then why is it okay for a man to legally walk into a woman's locker room?
Okay. My question
Well,
for
hold on.
you-
No, it's illegal to look through a window at a woman undress. Why should it be legal to walk into a locker room to watch women undress?
Well, that's assuming that they are going in there to watch women undress when they are actually going in there for a space for them to undress themselves in a space where they feel comfortable.
Why can't they do that in the sex that was on their birth certificate? Why can't they undress alongside other men if they're a man? They could put a dress on in that locker room, but they're just around other men.
Why do you want them to so badly?
Well, because I think women should be protected from perverts. Like, what is to prevent a regular guy on campus of Boise State say that I'm a girl and he just walks into the girls' locker room? At what point are you okay with them walking into the locker room? What do they have to do to satisfy you to be allowed into the women's locker room?
Not be perverts or not going
No,
in
but
there to be
How do you
around
know?
women in a
If all of a
private
sudden,
space.
if all of a sudden one of these guys, all of a sudden put on a dress, put on a wig, and just walked into the locker room with the full intent to watch women undress, which unfortunately is a lot of perverts, are you okay with that? How do you know they're not a pervert?
I am not okay with someone walking into a bathroom or a locker room with the intent of watching women undress, but the baseline disagreement, that the misunderstanding, and we can't,
We
I don't think...
know all the intent. The point is that we keep men and women separate because a lot of men want to see naked women, so we don't allow them in locker rooms
Here's my question
together.
for you. There are a lot of transgender men assigned female at birth who, quite honestly, look more masculine and more like a man than you do. Do you really want them in the women's bathroom?
That's an interesting thing. Just because you have a good costume does not mean you are the person that you seek to be. If you dress as Julius Caesar, you're not in control of the Roman Empire. Your costume does not dictate your reality.
We're not dealing with sane people here, and they need to be dealt with boldly, strongly. And I support everything Trump is saying and wanting to do. That's why I'm filing this censorship and this motion to strip Ilhan Omar of her committee assignments. That's why I'm working to root out the teachers and healthcare workers in South Carolina who celebrate murder. I don't want them around our kids. Hard pass.
I've never seen the kind of hate that was so apparent during the last election season. I've never seen the kind of hate that was exhibited against Donald Trump and his supporters than what we've seen in the last 10 years.
That's what I want. I want them to wake up every single day and the first thing they think is, my God, I wish I hadn't said that.
And if you are interested in saving money, specifically on your Medicare, then make sure you give our friends at Chapter a call. And I want you guys to really, really pay attention here, because it's come to my attention that most seniors are not on the best Medicare plan. They're either overpaying for the same coverage they could get elsewhere, or they don't have the coverage they need in an emergency. Chapter can review your options in under 20 minutes. It's fast, it's simple, it's easy, and it's free. If you're already on the best possible plan, they'll tell you they're unbiased and they're purely here to help folks, seniors, save money on healthcare, on average $1,100. And if you're not on the right plan, they'll help you switch, even if it's to a plan that pays them nothing. Again, unbiased, folks. This is unique and unlike any other Medicare provider out there. And this is exactly why we love Chapter so much, because they're literally just trying to help people. Chapter works for you, not big insurance or the government. And there's no pressure, just honest, free advice from professionals who know Medicare inside and out.